Hi Bruce, this is John. Good to start talking to you about this project. So this is my, let's just draw, bear with me, this is your version, and let's just drag that out of the way. This is my quick reinterpretation. So where you had got 900mm spans, I've created 600mm spans using stock parts, and no, I think you had meticulously created 700mm spans, and while that is possible, that's where most of your cutting had come from. So by using 600mm spans at every opportunity, you're naturally falling in with the system's defaults, and what you could describe as the waste area is all sort of collected in one section. Now, if that little waist height bit of hanging there is eliminated, what you end up with, and a lot of my clients find this really useful, is a concentrated area for all your very long hanging. So it could be coats, it could be, if you have a partner with you, it could be long ball dresses, yeah, something like that. But this is my sort of quick take on it, and I've also eliminated things like, I think you had some shelves here, melamine shelves. I never ever encourage clients to have waist height shelves with hanging above it, because you invariably end up with a shelf that you can't use or doesn't get used. And also the melamine shelf, it's a bit of an odd fit with the rest of this equipment. If you were going to have a shelf there, I would just have more of these standard wire, open breathable wire shelves. So let's just keep picking this apart. You've got plenty of ceiling height, and your design has spec'd the just over 2 metre verticals. If you really have a use for this top shelf, then keep it, but you could also, let's just, can we do this, let's have a look. Generally don't like redesigning things on the fly, but let's try. You could move the whole assembly up and drag all of those down to the next size. Oh, I need to take this, I will pause you and try again. Hi Bruce, right, sorry about that, let's pick up again. So yeah, you could, you've got a nice high ceiling, and depending on what your skirting boards are, you could go for the next length along of hang standards, which is 214. Again, let's not create cutting for the sake of it, but and if you have, I'm just going to jump out of that design view, bear with me, there we go. Okay, so if you create more height by putting this highest rail up as much as you can, it makes this double height hanging much easier. Now obviously there is a limit to that, because we're all different heights, and we can adjust that sort of downwards as well. But I think the point I'm making is, don't shy away from having slightly longer verticals. It might be useful. And if you don't have a use for a planned, no, I'm not going to say that, because you have got tall ceilings if you plug them in correctly, and that shelf is likely to be useful. So what else have I done that's different? Yes, shelves. I haven't shown any mid or waist height shelves. On this mid height hanging, I've just shown that as a rail. not a shelf. Now, if at a later date you, after the initial installation, what I've called in the email the skeleton installation, if you want to add more shelves in, you can do that, but they are not critical to the initial installation, and I generally don't advise them. So let's postpone that decision for at least a month and go with something more skeletal to start with. I've copied your quantity of baskets. I do end up selling the proportion of middle-sized compared to the smaller ones I sell is huge. If you have a very specific known use for the smaller depth, I would say go ahead and buy them, but again, they are only 80mm deep. They're not terribly useful. They're good for very, very small ladies' items. I think you know where I'm going with that. But you know, men's pants and socks, they're going to be too small. So that's something you might want to reserve judgment on. Certainly the medium size, very, very useful. They've actually stopped selling the large, so I'm not going to discuss that. Now, when we look at let's just look at quickly the list for these parts. And I will print this for you and send it on to you. Much, much less cutting there, you can see. There's going to be things like, where have we got shelves? So this wire shelf here, 60. All of these rods, 60, 140, 180, sorry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this list and tweak it and give you a slightly different price, a smaller price. And the reason I'm going to do that is how do we get back to the design, back to the planning tool. The reason I'm going to do that, Bruce, is because, tick, 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 where you have two 60cm shelves next to each other there, you may as well order and fit a 120cm. Same here. No reason why that can't be a 120. It makes the assembly slightly more stable, and it's less fiddling around, less cutting. Same here. That is difficult to do, to get two 60cm rails next to each other. If I supply that as a 120, or even combine those three, supply it as a 180 and that as a 120, that reduces your cutting and it increases the general stability of the assembly. So there are lots of little hands-on tricks that this software doesn't know. You know, I've installed 200 or 300 Elfa assemblies, maybe more, I've no idea. But this very clever thing here hasn't installed any, so there's my advantage. Okay, I'm going to give you the lowest priced version of this assembly. I'm going to leave those as 2.1 metre standards. If we want to revert that decision, we can do. And what I suggest we do is go for this as a skeletal design, which you can add to later. You may even wish to reduce the number of baskets, because it's very easy to send you out some extras in July. Okay, I hope you like that approach, and we'll speak soon. Cheers, Bruce. Bye-bye.